Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? And it is a fine day. I just spotted a comment from Gary. As you know, Gary is actually away at the moment. He's over in Spain, sunning himself as we speak. And he inquired how the weather is here. I can tell you, it's sunny, not particularly warm, but it's sunny. It's good golf weather, according to Fred, who is still on something of a high after yesterday's tight squeak to get the Ryder Cup coming back to Europe. Ooh. Got a bit tasty towards the end, didn't it? If anyone was watching, I was listening to it on the radio last night, and I'm not a golf fan at all, but I was completely invested in it. Really was. Andy Darvell says, "Morning, morning, 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 Andy." Dan Cullen is here somewhere. I've just spotted him. There we are. He says, "Here we go." Yeah, another packed program for you today. Just a very quick reminder, and I will remind you as we go along. This is final week for 2 weeks. I've got shows for you today, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then I'm off to America for a week to go to the Utility Expo, which is something I've never done before. So I'm quite looking forward to that. I've never been to Kentucky either. So, Louisville. Never been to either of those. So looking forward to that enormously. Jim Turner has just arrived. Morning, Jim. Let me press your button, although not in the biblical sense. As I say, loads to get through today. So, yeah, stick around, and we'll be right back after I've rolled the intro and given you... no, I'm not giving you a question of the day today because we've got another giveaway. So let me just play this. First of all, good morning to Mark Whiting. The show can commence. Ain't no show like a Mark Whiting show, so we have to wait until he turns up. Andy Darvell says, I had a Bobcat telehandler turn up on Friday, and a package just got delivered 5 minutes ago. I wonder what that was. Well, you'll have to wait until you get home to find out. I know what's in it. Well, assuming it's from me. It could be from somebody else. This could be your Ann Summers delivery, or do Ann Summers still exist? I don't know. Never been in one, I promise. Let me just tidy up my screen a little bit. Bear with me 1 second. Let me get rid of all of that old nonsense because that just makes things look untidy. Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, the 29th of September. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming. In today's show, we've got a battle of the Backhoes with JCB, how Caterpillar assists its wheel loader operators, the sweet sound of LiuGong. Yeah, we're going to be a bit of ASMR. I don't know what that stands for, but I know it's all noise related, and how Volvo helps you get the most from your machine. Plus, in my morning monologue today, I'm stealing the title from a Tracy Chapman song, Talking About a Revolution. That's what we're talking about. I've already said there is no question of the day today. So instead, we're going to do another minute to win it. Oh, hang on a minute. Jim Turner says, I unwrapped my prize over the weekend. They're great. The missus and lads love the hats. Thank you. Not a problem at all, Jim. Not a problem at all. There's I think there may be some more hats in the one from today, actually. Still no sign of the Komatsu prize. So we may we may actually have to revert to the question of the day sooner than I expected, because I'm running out of stuff to give away. I really am. Obviously, while I'm in Kentucky, I'm planning to fill my boots and come back with loads of stuff to give you. But as it stands at the moment, a bit thin on the ground. Still got stuff, but not as good as it was a few weeks ago. Although we're, as I say, plenty to keep you busy for a couple of days. So. Yes, let me do, what do I do next? Yes, let's do the minute to win it. Get that out of the way, shall we? It's another one of those that's full of stuff. 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 That's what I'd like you to type in the chat. You have a minute to win it. Which one should we go for today? Let's go for this one. You need to type the word stuff, STUFF, into the chat. Just very quickly before I press the button on this. If you're watching over on Instagram, and I know lots of you are, you don't bother typing stuff there. It won't count. You need to be on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, one of the other platforms. You have a minute to win it.
T-minus 1 minute. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
And there we are. 7 entries for that. Let me put that up on the screen. There you are. Yeah, 7 entries. So, without further ado, let me roll this and find out who has got the latest batch of stuff. Here we go. Chris Ford. Chris Ford. I'm fairly sure Chris won. Did you win on? Yes, I think you won some stuff on Friday. Well, you've won some more stuff today, Chris Ford. Congratulations. Let me just make a note of that. Congratulations, Chris. Well done. Well done indeed. Andy Darvell says, well done, Chris. Gary Muirhead says, well done, Mr. Ford, as well. Do you want to say a very quick good morning from Neil Bruce, all the way from New Zealand? Morning. I'm saying morning, like it's morning where you are. You get the idea. But good day to you, my friend. Thank you very much indeed for being back. So yes, Chris, I've got your address. I've still got that as a hangover from last week. I will get some more stuff. My office will soon be devoid of all things, and I'll be eternally grateful for it. Thank you very much indeed. Jim Turner says, fair play, Chris. Neil Bruce says, congrats. Dan Cullen says, congratulations, Chris. Somebody just turned up over on Instagram. Demolition Tiz. Chris nearly missed the entry as it seemed he was stiff. I did see that go through. Bear with me 1 second. Yes, there you are. There is Chris Ford's first entry. Stiff. Close but no cigar, but he rectified the situation. I don't know how that happened. Only normally get bad luck. Well, listen, we're aiming to put all of that right. Now, somebody did suggest, I think it may have been Dan, suggested that our next part of the show was news rather than the giveaway. Sometimes I make up the show system as I go along, but it is time for a bit of news. So stand by your bed. Now, let me just get the right layout for that. There we are. That's much, much better. This comes to you this morning from Construction Index. I don't know if you remember, but on both Thursday and Friday last week, we had some good news. Well, we've got some more. According to our Construction Index this morning, a new towns unit is to be established within the government to get machinery moving on at least 3 new towns by 2029. The government has published the recommendations of its new towns task force, revealing 12 recommended locations for potential new towns. The potential locations are a mix of what might be generally considered new towns and intensive development in underdeveloped areas of existing cities. A new towns unit will now work to unlock barriers to delivery. Just so you know, the government did the location. Yeah, the government is determined to begin building in at least 3 new towns in this Parliament, with sites at Tempsford in Bedfordshire, Cruise Hill in Enfield, and Leeds South Bank identified as the most promising. However, the Ministry of Housing said it was prepared to work or to progress work on larger range of locations if it proves possible. There's a bit of a caveat there, if it proves possible. But new towns. When did we last have a new town? I remember that Milton Keynes was a new town about 50 years ago. When did we last have a new town? I don't know, but yeah, there are new towns are coming. Let's have a look. Jim Turner says, never complain about being stiff. Chris Ford combats that with in all the wrong places. I know that feeling. Very, very quickly. I don't want to digress too far, but I went to see Alan Davis, the comedian from QI and Jonathan Creek and stuff. Went to see him on Saturday night. Man alive, that was good. Seriously funny. If you get a chance, he is on tour at the moment. Seriously funny. Dan Cullen says, Cambridge, an old army barracks, maybe. It could be. Milton Keynes is massive now. Yeah. Why is it? And I've often wondered this. If anybody's ever been to Milton Keynes, there's not a huge amount to recommend it, I grant you. There's a ski slope. There's some concrete cows. Not a huge amount else. But if you've been there, you will know that it works on the same kind of format as American cities. Everything's in straight lines. So, you've got northeast and south and west, and everything is in a grid format. Lots and lots of roundabouts, which is a bit of a nightmare, but really, 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 really easy to find your way around. It's literally like blocks, go through blocks, do a left, and yeah. Why do we not do that elsewhere? And Gary Muirhead says, I fancy going to see Al Murray, the pub landlord. I went to see Al Murray 10 odd years ago, probably. And, obviously there's all the bits that he does, that's a beautiful English name, fruit-based drink for the ladies and all that kind of thing. But I tell you what impressed me the most was he does a lot of audience interaction. And then right near the end of the show, he goes back and revisits it. How he's kept all of that plus his act in his head, I don't know. But he can pick out individual people in the audience and go back to what he was saying to them previously. Really, really good. Get a chance to see Al Murray. He's very, very good. Would be much easier and better for the country to make all planning fairer and simpler. Then SME builders would be putting houses up all over Britain. Yeah, and I do wonder about this. And listen, I know we need new homes. I know we need new towns, and putting my positive hat on, I do think this is a good thing. But why is it that the government can suddenly wave a magic wand and kind of push all of the planning restrictions to one side and progress, whereas the rest of the industry has to sit and wait for months and months and months for anything to take place? I'm working just outside it now. It's really easy. It's really easy to get about. You get lost, keep turning left or right, and you'll get back to where you were. And all the roads are north, south, east, and west. It really does work. Once you've figured it out, it really does make perfect sense. It's like when the first time I ever went to New York, and I don't know, you're on 57th and 1st. I'm on what now? And then when you actually look at it, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And it's all on a grid layout. It makes perfect sense. Maybe some of the new towns will adopt that. Who the hell knows? We've got a battle of the Backhoes in just a moment, but first a bit of this from Caterpillar. Kind of wish I could do this in the style of Harry Hill. Remember, we like this and we like that. Which is the best? There's only one way to find out. Fight. It's not quite a fight, but JCB, as you well know, make a 3CX backhoe loader. They make a 4CX backhoe loader and a 5CX backhoe loader. Which one is the best? Or, more specifically, which one is the most suitable to the task in hand? I can't tell you, but I do know a lady that has the answer. Georgina, do your thing.
Hi, my name's Georgina Williams and I work on the Backhoe Loader Products team here at JCB. And behind me are three of our top spec backhoe loader machines, the 3CX Pro, the 4CX Pro and the 5CX Pro. Now these three machines all feature our 81 kilowatt 109 horsepower engine. They also all feature our 6-speed auto shift gearbox with torque lock. And finally, they all feature the innovative dual drive controls, allowing you to reposition the backhoe loader when facing the excavator end. But what is really different about these machines? Well, first of all, our 3CX Pro is the only machine behind us that can travel 50 kilometers per hour on the roads. But the 4CX Pro and the 5CX Pro can travel 40 kilometers per hour on the road. The 4CX and the 5CX also feature all-wheel steer. That means you have the ability to travel in two-wheel steer, four-wheel steer, or crab steer. The 4CX and the 5CX Pro can really take you to the next level. And it's not just increased maneuverability that is offered by the all-wheel steer of these machines. So we're going to take a closer look at the machines behind me, specifically the 4CX Pro and the 5CX Pro, and look at the features on these machines that make it a really high output and very high productivity machine. So taking a closer look at this 4CX machine, you can see that it's got four equal-sized, large 28-inch wheels. And that allows for an excellent weight distribution. And let's take a closer look at those three different steering mode options. First of all, you have two-wheel steer, typically used when roading the machine to allow for more control and smooth steering when traveling at fast speeds. Four-wheel steer allows all four wheels to control the machine direction. And that means that you get an excellent turning circle. This machine has a 9-meter turning circle. That's only slightly more than the 8-meter turning circle of a 3CX Pro machine, which has those much smaller 20-inch wheels on the front. And finally, you have crab steer. Crab steer allows the machine to travel sideways in a diagonal travel of direction, allowing even more maneuverability around tight obstacles on site. So the 4CX has more pushing performance than the 3CX. But why is that? They both feature the same 81 kilowatt engine. Well, it comes back to these four big wheels. The four big wheels mean more contact with the ground and more weight in the machine, and that equals more traction. And more traction equals more pushing performance and more power. So the increased traction and better weight distribution of this 4CX machine means reduced likelihood of wheel spin. Having a backhoe means that you've got a versatile machine that can work on all different kinds of job sites. And the 4CX in particular has excellent off-roading capabilities. Them 28-inch wheels on the front lifts those axles even more out of the ground. Having an all-wheel steer machine also allows for greater steering control, particularly when pushing materials. If the front wheels on this machine lift whilst doing some heavy pushing work with the front end, you're still going to get steering control from those rear wheels. Another benefit of the 4CX machine is improved stability. This machine is 9,350 kilograms, and that's around 8% heavier than the 3CX Pro. This additional weight means the machine is more grounded and has more stability, and that's particularly useful with the new dual drive controls for pick and place, allowing the machine to become and work like a wheeled excavator. So the 4CX is a highly capable, high output machine. But if you're looking to take your productivity to the next level, then the 5CX is the ultimate productivity machine. But what are the key differences between these two machines? Well, on the 5CX, it features an extra foot of reach on that dig end. That means a maximum reach of 7.7 meters. And this machine comes with limited slip differential as standard. This 5CX machine delivers ultimate pushing performance. And that is down to the extra weight of that 15-foot dig end at the rear, which really anchors the machine to the ground, combined with the 1.3 cubic meter front shovel, which is 4 inches wider than the shovel on the 3CX. And that means you get a better distribution of weight at the front of the machine when pushing into the pile. In addition, the limited slip differential maximises traction in soft ground. LSD works by partially locking the slipping wheel and instead directing more power to the wheel, making better ground engagement, therefore offering improved traction. This 5CX machine is 9.5 tonne. That's 1 tonne heavier than our 3CX Pro machine. And that additional weight means this machine really packs a punch when pushing into the pile. The additional weight of the machine also means that you get a better compaction of materials when building roads or pushing out stone. Also, the 1.3 cubic metre front shovel delivers 30% higher capacity when moving materials or pushing out stone. So this 5CX machine is really the one for ultimate productivity. The 15-foot dig end of this 5CX gives 10% more reach than the 14-foot dig end on our 3CX and 4CX machines. That means a maximum reach of up to 7.7 metres or a maximum dig depth of 6.5 metres. So what I wanted to show you is why you should be looking at a 4CX or a 5CX all-wheel steer backhoe loader. And in this video, we've pointed out some of the key benefits. You've got a machine that has increased traction and pushing performance, better weight distribution, increased manoeuvrability, more control, more stability, and excellent off-road performance. So if you're looking for that and taking your backhoe loader to the next level, then maybe you should be looking at a 4CX Pro or even a 5CX Pro.
I'll come back to the chat in just a moment, but a bit more Georgina.
Hi, I'm Georgina Williams, aka JCB Digger Girl, and you're watching The Breakfast Show.
Thank you, Georgina. Right, back to the chat. What we got here? Neil Bruce says, in New Zealand, we need more homes as well, but because of our land layout, it makes it very difficult. He then goes on to say, our capital, Wellington, is built on a hillside, literally. Did not know that. Never been. I will tick it off one of these days. Jim Turner says, all governments since the 1960s have suppressed SMEs and favoured bigger businesses unfairly. It's a government ploy to keep us all as plebs are seen as easier to control. Come the glorious revolution, though, Jim. Dan Cullen says, she's some girl. She certainly knows her stuff. I've said this before about Georgina. We went up to JCB a couple of years back, and we were actually talking backhoe loaders, which is a specialist subject. And we aimed a camera at her, stuck a microphone on her, aimed a camera at her. About 10 minutes later, she stopped talking. She didn't say she didn't say she didn't miss a beat. Unlike this guy who does it every single day. She doesn't even do it every day. I do it every day and fluff my lines all over the place. She is word perfect. Georgina is a star. Jim Turner says, that's why we flip-flop between two similar parties for the last 70 odd years. Westminster is just a Punch and Judy show to keep our eye off the real game. Really does feel like that, doesn't it? Now, going back to backhoe loaders, Kerry Jones says, morning all, I've driven the 4CX in the valleys of and Cardiff City. I wouldn't recommend it, but the 3CX is nice for the roads around here. On a very similar subject, I think, Andy Darville says, I wonder why the 4 and 5 can do only 40 kilometres an hour, but the 3 can do 50. I would imagine weight, stability, suspension, braking, I think a combination. I mean, I think the 5CX is another ton heavier than the 3CX. I think a combination of all of those. Dan Cullen enjoying Georgina's input. Very informative, he says. Jim Turner says, I think they should have had it picky up a bit more than 2 Harris fence panels. It wasn't exactly challenging, was it? I do grant you that. Dan, 7.7 metres reach. Yeah, that's a long, long way out. Jim Turner says, I think a 3CX front wheel would compact material a fair bit more than a 4 or a 5CX wheel. He says, Gary Muirhead, JCB 3CX used to be a Swiss Army knife on site, but you don't see many of them about on sites these days. I've never understood that. If anything, it sort of runs counter to the way that the world has gone. We try to get more out of stuff now. This phone on my desk, which I will use as the example, it can make phone calls, but it can also surf the internet. It can send and receive emails. It can play video. It can shoot photos and video. It can do a multitude of things. That's why these are popular. You would have thought that the the JCB backhoe loader would have been exactly the same sort of format. Obviously can do a bunch of things, but we seem to have said, no, actually what we want to do is we want to specialize. We want a telehandler over here, and we want a mini excavator over there, and our tried and trusted backhoe loader kind of pushed towards the background. I think we've been too hasty, personally. Chris Ford, regarding 4950 kilometers an hour, would think it was something to do with braking with the extra weight. Whatever happened to the 3D and 4D? I don't know, but I do agree on the braking thing. I'll come back to Dr. Yvonne Waterman in just a moment. First of all, Gary Muirhead says, is it too early to have a beer at this time in the morning, or have I got a problem? Let me have a look. It's 10:30 here, which means it's 11:30 there. Bearing in mind you had a beer at the airport at 4:30 in the morning, I think you're actually running late. Listen, I'm not an expert, given that I don't drink, but I think you're probably running late. Gary, you certainly have my permission. I would seek permission of Christine or any medical professionals around the place, but I think you're okay. I think maybe this show will be better if you've had a few. It can't be much worse, can it? Now, Dr. Yvonne Waterman says, good morning, Mark. Good morning, Yvonne. But she then goes on, and this is where you lot get involved. I'm working hard on the upcoming Global Asbestos Forum and the next issue of the Global Asbestos Forum magazine. Would you please ask your audience, pay attention, would you please ask your audience for any interesting case studies on asbestos removal for the magazine? Now, I know for a fact that we've got lots of Brits here. We've also got Neil Bruce, who is in New Zealand. If anyone has got any interesting stories about asbestos removal, Dr. Yvonne Waterman over on LinkedIn would like to hear from you. Failing that, send it to me and I will pass it on. I'll be happy to do that. If anyone's got any asbestos removal tales, please let us know. Case studies, tales from the sharp end of the business, we'd love to hear from you. Jim Turner says, it's only a problem if there's no beer. See, you've come to the right place for advice, Gary. Never too early, mate. See, even the New Zealanders, the Kiwis believe you're okay to drink, although it is early evening there, I would imagine. Gary, I like that one, Jim, and I'm sticking to it. But enjoy your beer. Enjoy your beer. Let's crack on, shall we? Because we've still got loads of stuff to get through. I'm going to be playing with your eardrums in a second. Stick around.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
I'm going to read this as it was written. I'll leave you to do the translation. Neil Bruce says, knock the top off a stubby, mate, and get into it. I think that basically means have a beer. Stubby? We don't have stubbies here, Mr. Bruce. Mark Whiting, love my 4CX Pro, 3,000 hours, and there's been no bother at all. Thank you for that, Mark. That's a pleasure to hear. That is a pleasure to hear. I'm really, really cheesed off with this notion of, JCB have done a thing. Oh, it will let you down. Nonsense, absolute nonsense. I have promised you some stuff to do with your ears, haven't I? Bear with me a second. I just want to look up something. There is a thing online called ASMR, which is kind of the enjoyment of the sound of things. Apparently, it's autonomous sensory meridian response. I didn't know that. I've just looked it up. But yes. I'm about to play you a video. I'll do that in just a second. Because Yvonne says, thanks, Mark. The sharper the better. Yeah, the sharper the better. Tales from the asbestos side. That's what we'd like. And Dan saying, Gary, sit back, get your gunnels watered, and have a beer. I think it's unanimous, Gary. Have a beer. He's probably at the bar as we speak. So, yes, I'm talking ASMR. I hope you're all... Well, I hope some of you have got headphones on because this sounds so much better. But if you haven't, turn up the volume. Listen to this. This is the sweet sound of LiuGong. I wish all the devices in my office made those noises. I'd spend even more time. I couldn't spend any more time in it. I'd live in here. Going back to, let's have a look. What are we looking at? Gary Muirhead says, cheers, Neil. And a euro a pint, it would be rude not to. Quite right. Neil Bruce says, don't you have bottles of beer there? We do have bottles of beer here. Well, people have bottles of beer. I don't, but people do. We just don't call them stubbies. We call them bottles of beer, unless anybody knows better. Jim Turner says, thanks to being a bit beardy, the very few times we've had to deal with asbestos contaminated areas, I can't do it because the dust mask won't fit. A bit beardy, Jim? You look like the missing member of ZZ Top. That's not a bit beardy, that's very beardy. Kerry Jones says, I've operated JCB for 30 years. I've only ever had one that was problematic. Yeah, that's more like the reality of the situation, I think. Chris Ford says, all of those electronics to go wrong. You think Chinese things go wrong? Surely not. Sound a lot of the tick-tock, tick-tick switch. Was surprised LiuGong wasn't a plant works. Were they not? As you know, I didn't go, so I didn't know. Peter McKenna has just arrived. Morning, Peter. And Peter says, I think Jim looks like Grizzly Adams. I'm sure he means that as a compliment, Jim. Fairly sure he means that as a compliment. We're doing Caterpillar after this, so stick around.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Now, I realise that we have two schools of thought in the audience here when it comes to driver aids and operator assistants. I know some people love them. I know some people hate them. But this is how the mighty Caterpillar is providing operator assistance on its wheel loader range.
So the technology features, a lot of our technology features are optional. One is standard. So let me start with the standard one, and that is tip up prevention. What this feature does is it prevents the back end of the machine from lifting significantly off the ground. And the reason that's important is because if you are, from the perspective of an operator being able to get that bucket full digging, how much more breakout force do you have with the back end this high off the ground versus on the ground? None. It actually just very slightly decreases it. So if there's no benefit to lifting the back end of the machine off the ground, then we would rather have it on the ground. While there's no benefit, there's also a consequence, because dropping a machine from this high up in the air, and it's a heavy machine, that's not good for the durability. So it doesn't hurt your digging ability, it doesn't hurt your production, but it improves the durability, and that's one less thing the operator has to worry about. When you have the partial automation of the digging active, you don't have to use that left pedal anymore. It does all that for you. That covers two of the three features that you get within the partial automation of the digging. The first is tire slip prevention. So what the machine's doing there is when you have more force down on the tires, you have more traction, so it's giving you some extra rim pull. When you lose that force, it's taking away, so it's actually proactively managing that tire before it slips. We found that to be a very effective way of managing the rim pull, as we call it. The second was the lift stall prevention, which is preventing your hydraulics on your lift cylinder from stalling out as a result of too much rim pull, too much force into the pile. And a third aspect of this partial automation of the digging is what we sometimes call auto set tire or tire set. When you are going in to get that bucket full of material, you have a flat bucket, you're headed towards the pile, you make contact with the pile, And the ideal technique is as soon as that bucket is far enough underneath the pile that you can apply an upward lift force, that adds more weight to the front tire than it takes off the back tires. So we call that setting the tires. And you have to do it at just the right time. So this feature is taking the measurements as the machine's digging, and it knows the exact right time to give that first lift command. So back to the perspective of the operator, you don't have to worry about the left pedal, and your hands are off the implement controls. As you head into the pile, the bucket gives the first lift command, and then you take over. So it's a really nice blend of letting the machine do what the machine is good at and letting the human judgment do what the human judgment is good at. Speaking of operator technique, that would lead into another optional feature, which is operator coaching. And the operator coaching feature looks at 21 different aspects of the way the operator is using the machine, and it gives you feedback on all those things. And you can review the report for each operator, and you can say, here are the things that we still need to work on. And you can do that until every operator is up to the highest level of proficiency.
John, thanks for the great overview on the 995 and Cat large wheel loaders.
Going back to the chat, we're talking stubbies for a reason I don't fully understand. They usually aren't stubby bottles either. I love a bottle of Guinness West Indies Porter. I didn't know Guinness did other things other than Guinness. Kerry Jones says, I'm sure Ken Hatcher visited the LiuGong stand. While we were doing that, I've been over to the Plantworks exhibitors list. LiuGong aren't listed now. It may be the case that LiuGong were there, but they were on somebody else's stand, you know, as a dealer or something like that. But according to that, LiuGong wasn't actually there under their own steam. So a little surprised at that. Gary Muirhead says, I've seen Jim's pictures with Lou at Plantworks, and you're completely right. Big Jim Turner. Wow, you're talking about. Yeah. I mean, I'm not particularly big. I'm 5'10", but he towers over me. Jim Turner says, having the weight of the rear end whilst turning before reversing from the face helps to reduce tire wear. It does indeed. Dan Cullen. My dream to get behind the levers of one of those monsters. Don't blame me. What's the biggest I've driven? 988, I think. Biggest cat wheel loader I've driven, and it is quite the animal. Peter McKenna says, I've driven big cats down, like them better than Komatsu. Like driving anything, you're either safe or dangerous. Good overview, says Dan Cullen, and underview as well. Gary Muirhead, Dan, you'll need to go to Glen Sander Quarry here in Scotland, see and operate those machines. It's worth going just to stop off at Oban, where I have my honeymoon. Oban's lovely. And you catch the boat out to Glen Sander. Jim Turner says, I'm not tall, Gary. Lou is one of the borrowers. And on another of Lou's pics, she was stood next to Nick Drew, and she was taller than him. Yeah, that doesn't say anything, though, because Nick Drew in real life is that big. I know those of you that have met him will know he's that big. You can actually put Nick Drew in your pocket. Don't know why you'd want to do that, but Dan Cullen says, do you know anyone there, Gary? Gary, do you know anyone at Glen Sander? Could give him an in. We had a 996 at Tarmac Quarry up at Carnforth. That's a big old beast. That is a big old beast. What have we got left? We've got one more film, and then I'm going to do Morning Monologue. We're talking Volvo in just a moment after this. Jim Turner, is he the inch-high machine guy? He is when he stood on tiptoes. Yes. And Dan Cullen enjoying that. Now, you guys have met him. You know he's a little bit bigger than that, but he's quite diddy. Anyway, we've got one last film. It's just a short one, only 38 seconds. It features Volvo, and it looks like this. Peter McKenna says, Nick looked like a midget stood next to me. He does. He looks like a hard hat balanced on some work boots. He really does. And for some reason, Peter's typing Volvo backwards. Ovlov. Actually sounds more Swedish than Volvo, doesn't it? Anyway, people, that's about it for the main part of this morning show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I hope to see you again very soon. Tomorrow would be good. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I'll be back immediately after, when I find it, this. Some years ago, a friend of mine told me about a twin boom excavator he'd seen at a construction equipment exhibition in China. Having first established this wasn't a prank of some kind, I went in search of the machine and found that it did, in fact, exist. More than that, there were at least 2 construction equipment manufacturers that had devised much the same solution. Solution to what, I hear you ask? Well, both firms said their machines were designed specifically to work in the aftermath of an earthquake or another natural disaster. One of the machine's twin booms would be fitted with a grab or a grapple for holding beams, columns, and slabs in place, while the second boom was equipped with a cutting, crushing, or pulverizing attachment. And working in unison, the 2 booms could remove large chunks of fallen concrete and steel without causing a further collapse. At the time, I remember thinking that operating a machine like that would be like, that patting yourself on your head and rubbing your stomach in a circular motion. I also dismissed the machine as a bit of a novelty with limited appeal outside of quake-prone Asia. Now, however, I'm not so sure. Driven by an insatiable desire for sustainability and the need to retain the embodied carbon contained within structures and their constituent parts, there's a growing call for a fundamental shift in the demolition process. That shift could be so huge that even the name demolition could be consigned to the pages of history like some dirty word that we no longer say in polite society. The demolition industry has spent decades perfecting its art, taking down buildings, breaking them up, crushing and segregating the materials, and then reselling those materials back into the construction supply chain. It's becoming increasingly clear, however, that in the coming years, that will no longer be enough. There's a growing desire among clients, main contractors, and environmentalists to remove and retain entire structural elements for reuse elsewhere. Such a shift raises a number of as yet unanswered problems. Where will those structural elements be stored? How will their availability be advertised? How will they be tested for quality? And when does the demolition contractor get paid? Is it at the time of removal or is it at the point of sale? But the biggest question of all is, how will they be delicately removed and lowered to the ground intact to retain their integrity? In the demolition of today, so long as there's a suitable exclusion zone in place, how those elements hit the ground is largely of no consequence. In fact, if a chunk of concrete breaks up a bit when it hits the floor, so much the better. It's a bit less processing to do. The need to retain structural elements would rewrite the demolition rulebook entirely. While demolition today is geared towards getting a building down as quickly as possible and as safely as possible, the salvage of entire pieces of building will be slower and more meticulous. While high-reach explosive and top-down demolition processes fragment the building for further processing at ground level, deconstruction would hinge upon taking down a structure like a game of Jenga. And such a mindset shift is not without its challenges. At site level, it would mean effectively retaining the entire work. At site level, it would mean effectively retraining the entire workforce, not in demolition, but in component salvage. It would require the development of entirely new working practices and methodologies that allowed entire buildings to be surgically dissected without putting men and women back into the danger zone. At management level, it might mean that the demolition company of today gives way to a commodities broker style operation in which a company's profitability hinges upon its ability to recover, store, and resell great chunks of buildings in a timely and profitable manner. But perhaps the biggest shift is likely to be in the field of equipment. When you think about the demolition attachments used today, all of them are geared towards destruction. That's even reflected in their names: breakers, pulverizers, crushers. In the future, demolition, or whatever we're going to call it going forward, will require a whole new suite of equipment, and quite possibly a whole new equipment vocabulary to go with it. And standing on the cusp of such a monumental shift feels daunting, and yet it's merely the continuation of a quiet and prolonged evolution that has been taking place in the demolition industry for decades. We've already seen the arrival and adoption of high-reach excavators and demolition robots that push working men and women further and further from the industry danger zone. We've seen the development of a seemingly endless array of specialist attachments to tackle every part of the demolition process. And we've seen the widespread adoption of quick coupler systems from the likes of Oil Quick and Steel Wrist that allow these attachments to be changed quickly and safely, and to ensure that the operator always has the right tool. I won't even bother doing that again. All of that has happened during the span of my career. All of it is now considered standard, second nature. And all of it has moved us even further and further away from the crawler crane and wrecking ball combo favoured by our forebears. The switch from destructive demolition to delicate deconstruction is just another step along that road. And it's well within the capabilities of an industry with a proven ability to adapt and overcome. Whether that future will include twin boom excavators, however, remains to be seen. Twin boom excavators. Have you seen it? Have you seen that? Let's have a look in the chat. If I've got time, I may even drag that over. Let's have a look. Jim Turner says, never met or seen Nicky in real life. You've probably been in his presence, almost trodden on him, but missed him. That's what it is. Jim, maybe that's because he's so small it's hard to spot. Yeah. Did he? Peter's laughing. Gary Muir says, the only risk of being in Benidorm at this time of year, if I had to read ahead there. The only risk of being in Benidorm at this year, if you fall over, there's no one young enough to pick you up. This must be the capital of mobility scooters. I thought that was Worthing. Yeah, you go down to my parents both lived in Worthing. You go down to the front in Worthing, and you the greatest danger. It's not the local druggies. It's not likely to be stabbed by passing hooligans. You're more likely to be mowed down by Betty in her mobility scooter. True story. I wonder, can I find that? Talk amongst yourselves, and I'll see if I can find the video to which I'm referring. It's not particularly good, but I will try to find it. Let's have a look. Just going to swap over here. Just talk amongst yourselves. I'll be with you any moment now. No, I can't find it. Can't find it, which is a damn shame. Let me just have a... No, I know I've got it somewhere, but I can't find it. My apologies. I probably should have planned that a little bit further ahead. But yes, there are twin boom excavators in existence. In fact, I know one of them was actually made by a Chinese manufacturer, but I know Hitachi have got one. Let's have a look. Yeah, I can't actually show you the video, but what I can show you, just to prove that I'm not completely making this up. Share screen. Looks like that. There you are. Can you see that? Double boom machine. as I say, not the best reproduction there. In 2005, Hitachi Construction Machinery developed Astico, a machine based on a hydraulic excavator equipped with 2 arms. Its distinctive form has made it popular with children and adults alike. Okay, having 2 arms allows the operator or the machine to perform operations such as pulling an object while holding it, cutting an object while holding it, and bending long objects. But as you can see, that was my feeling on that. Grab on one side, some kind of cutter or crusher on the other side. So imagine if you are required to take down a building in its constituent parts. My only concern with that is that the attachments that we have right now, munchers, multiprocessors, cutters, crushers, and all that, they are inherently destructive. We're going to need something new. If you have a look at the thumbnail for this, when this goes up on LinkedIn and on YouTube later today, about 11 o'clock, you will see I've actually suggested some sort of circular saw. I'm just throwing it out there, just spitballing here, people. That's all I'm doing. Peter McKenna says, my wife came back from Benidorm last Monday, her 7th trip there this year. You don't suppose she's moving out bit by bit, do you, Peter? Taking a few of her possessions with her each time. She's setting up shop over there. That's what it is. Dan Collins says, hasn't Liebherr got one too? Have they? Let's have a look, see if I can find that. Not that I'm seeing, Dan. Not that I'm seeing. They may have. They may have. I listen. Google is not entirely reliable. Gary, you need to visit Big Ron's and try their belly buster. I think we need to know A, who is Big Ron, and B, what is the belly buster? Is it some? I'm assuming it's a meal of gargantuan proportions. Who's Big Ron? I don't know the answer to that. I could probably look that up, but I don't think I will. It's not Big Ron, it's Uncle Ron. Still none the wiser. Let's have a look, see if I can find that. As you can tell, I've got nowhere to be at the moment. There you are. It is Uncle Ron's Belly Buster Challenge. I'm just waiting for it to come up. Oh, let me see if I can put that up on the screen. That one there. Apparently, the Uncle Ron's Belly Buster is 4 eggs, 4 sausages, 4 bacon, 4 hash browns, 4 mushrooms, 4 tomatoes, 4 beans, 4 toast, 2 fried bread. Complete it in 20 minutes and you get it free. Yeah, I'm going to struggle with that. I am going to struggle with that. The hash browns and the toast would be my problem there. That's quite a lot of carb, right? I mean, I fancy myself with the bacon and the mushrooms and the eggs and stuff, and the sausages as well. But yeah, too many carbs for my liking. Let me take that away. Who was it that had a digger arm at the front and at the back of the machine? I think Case did one. Didn't Case do one as a bit of a like an April Fool thing? Fairly sure it may have done. And Gary Muirhead, what? No black pudding, Peter? I can't believe you've looked at that and decided, no, I can't do that. There's something missing. Well done. Well done indeed. You know, I'm not even sure I know of. I mean, Fred used to be a big eater. I'm not even sure that me and Fred could take that down. Jim Turner says, sounds doable, but I'll need a pot of tea and a pint of Guinness with it. Good Lord. Good Lord. I don't know how people do that. I mean, I do occasionally get a bit of a hankering for Guinness, but Guinness, to my mind, is a replacement for a meal. If I have a couple of pints of Guinness, it's game over. There's no food's going in. I'm full up now. That's that. I'm done. I'm completely done. Anyway, people, I'm going to remind you very, very quickly that, yes, we've got 4 more shows this week, and then I'm away for a week, off to Kentucky, Louisville to be precise, just around the corner from the Louisville Museum, apparently. So I would imagine lots of references to the Louisville Lip himself, Muhammad Ali, one of my heroes. So looking forward to seeing that. Looking forward to getting to know my way around Kentucky. Also looking forward to doing things a little bit differently in America this time. When I went to Mine Expo and the last 2, possibly 3 Con Expos, I've had my wife in tow. And she's gone off and done her own thing during the day. Last time we were there, we had my daughter with us as well. So the 2 of them were going off and doing girly stuff, shopping and whatever. But because, it's your wife, we were tending, I wouldn't say we were going particularly posh restaurants, but come the evening, we were going to restaurants, Chinese restaurant, a Thai restaurant, an Italian restaurant, a Mexican restaurant. But this time it's just me and Fred. So we could actually go and kind of submerge ourselves in American culture. I'm hoping there's going to be a diner close by. I just basically want to go in and order coffee and pie. I don't care what pie it is, coffee and pie. I want somewhere where I can just get a good old-fashioned burger. Even if it means I'm standing on the street with meat juices dripping down my chin, I'm good with that. I just want to go and immerse myself in American culture proper. I'm trying to set aside the fact there was another mass shooting yesterday. I'm going to be writing about that tomorrow. I've started writing about it today. I'll get it finished today. I'll tell you about it tomorrow. Gary says, have you started packing the bag yet? No. Well, no, we haven't. Case is still in the shed. I've got to get that out. What I have started to do, though, is pull all the tech gear together. So all the batteries, all the chargers, all the cameras, all the video cameras, the drone, all the stuff that we actually need to do the work. Because by and large, I could probably go in a pair of jeans and a T-shirt. And if I need more clothes while I'm there, I'll get more clothes while I'm there. So the clothes, as far as I'm concerned, very much secondary. I will be taking clothes, obviously, and my toilet bag and all that good stuff. But by and large, the most important bit, i.e. the bit that gets us paid, is all the tech. So I think we're at least 6, possibly 7 cameras. We're at least 2 drones. We are 4 different microphones. I was going to say 3, but we've got a new one. So yeah. Peter McKenna, song. What now? Have you sent me something on WhatsApp? Bet you have. Apparently there is let's have a look. Demolition Way. Does this exist as a song, or is this just words? Gary says, I'll try and give you a couple of T-shirts made up saying the Anthony Boyd's on tour. Oh, good Lord. Could you imagine? I've got to be honest, we kind of, thanks for the offer, but we've got Diggers and Dozers hat. I've got a Breakfast Show hat. We also got T-shirts with stuff, and tend to avoid it. Not so much of a problem in the States, because despite the fact that is our biggest audience, Diggers and Dozers is not that famous over in America. But here, it can be a bit of a pain in the ass. You either get stopped in the aisles of Plant Works or Hillhead. Can we get a selfie with you? Which I'm good about, but you also get stuff thrown at the back of your head as well, which is not quite so much fun. Anyway, people, don't forget, if you have any stories related to asbestos removal, Dr. Yvonne Waterman would love to hear from you. I'll be back tomorrow. Dan Cullen's just asked, any new stickers yet? No, there are not. And will we? Probably. We probably will. I'm looking for inspiration, to be perfectly honest with you, because we've had this discussion before about our stickers. About the notion of actually advertising the show, so that if you put one on your machine, somebody walking past it go, the Breakfast Show, it's at 10 o'clock in the morning, I'll go and check that out, which is all well and good. And listen, I'd welcome some more visitors. but I'm not entirely sure anyone would want to put that sticker on to their hard hat or their machine or anything else. I'd much rather have a sticker that is just, "Haha, that's cool," or "That's funny," or whatever it might be. So I'm still looking for that. I'm still looking for that. One other thing, and I've not tried it again. I've not tried it yet. I'm not even sure how it works. There is a facility on this platform now where I can actually generate a QR code while I'm live. I'm not going to. Because I don't know how to do it, which is one thing, but also I would imagine most of you guys are actually watching it on a mobile device. How are you going to scan a QR code if you're holding the QR code scanner while watching the show? Doesn't necessarily work. But I have to say, the platform that provides us with the ability to do this show is constantly adding new bits and pieces, and I have to say I'm very grateful for it. Really does keeps me on my toes, but by the same token, gives me more new things to play with. Gary Muirhead says, not long till Halloween. You have to think up an after dark show story. Maybe when you're away, you give it a bit of thought. Oh, see now, see this. You see this. Oh, this is literally where the magic happens. I have a bit of a habit. Is that one on? Yes, it is. When you stay in hotels, and hotels often have like little notepads, little bits of paper. I pick them up and I collect them. Okay, so this, I'm not entirely sure where this one was. From Sweden. That one's from Sweden. There you are. That's that one. And then there's this one from that's from Germany. And that one's from Germany as well. And then this one, I'm not entirely sure. Oh, Clarion Collection. No idea where the Clarion Hotel was. But I've started, you can see it there. I've started to write a story. It's not necessarily, in fact, it is definitely not. It's not a Halloween story, but I've started to write a story. Maybe if I get the chance, I am taking the laptop with me, and I've got 9 hours on one flight and then about an hour and a half on another to get us there, and about the same coming back the other way. Maybe I'll actually sit down and get that one done. I'd love to get it done because it is rattling around in my head. One of the big problems of doing a daily show is you have these things rattling around your head, but you've also got to do the following day's show. And I'm sat here now thinking about that story, thinking I could spend a couple of hours on it. But I haven't done Morning Monologue for tomorrow yet. I'll do that first, and then by the time I'm finished doing that, it's time to go to bed. There you are. Write, perform, sleep, repeat. That's kind of my life. Not that I'm complaining. Wouldn't have it any other way. People, go and have a fantastic day. The Morning Monologue in written form should be up and out by now. Should be. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure it will be very, very soon. I'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Hope to see you there. Dan Cullen says, have a great day. Yes, from Dan's lips to your ears. Dan, thank you for that. Everybody have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow, assuming you're available. And Gary, have another beer. Yeah.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.